Hi again, and welcome to a Drafthouse Diary. It is Sunday, October 20th, 2024, and I just got out of the Alamo Drafthouse at Westminster, where I saw Saturday Night, Jason Reitman's docu-dramedy about the first episode of Saturday Night Live and the struggles that went into actually making that show happen. There are a lot of good elements in this movie. Some very good performances, very good casting. A few people sort of lapsed into caricaturish impressions as opposed to portraying a role, but by and large, they gave us some real characters. They gave us tension. The whole thing was set more or less in real time, those 90 minutes before the show went on the air at 11:30 p.m. one Saturday night in 1975. The problem is we had all of these pieces, including some terrific design, some sets. They made the energy and the location seem, I can't say if it's accurate, but it seemed believable to putting on live television in the middle of the 1970s. But all of these pieces they had, they didn't quite come together into a movie. They didn't maintain the right level of tension throughout. Occasionally, everything would stop dead so they could focus on a particular character or a particular event. It seemed as if they gathered a whole bunch of interviews and a whole bunch of oral history, and they tried to cram as much of it as they could into this one film. Again, a lot of interesting components, but it doesn't turn into a watchable and a compelling film. And I think I understand the difficulties in doing what they set out to do with this movie. You've got all of this material and you've got a limited window in which to explore it and to show it and to share it with an audience. You've also got the weight of the cultural legacy of Saturday Night Live and how important it has become, and being the people who are trying to show its origins, that's a big responsibility. As much as I like biopics, and particularly biopics of artists and performers and show business, I was hoping for more from this movie. I enjoyed this movie enough. I'm glad I came to see it, but I still feel as if there is the possibility out there for a definitive movie about Saturday Night Live and its origins. I'm not saying it has to be a more accurate movie than this was. Maybe this was extremely accurate, but in addition to accuracy, you have to tell a story, and you have to tell a story that conveys something true about the events that you're portraying, not necessarily a catalog of events that happened. And in a few places in this movie, I kind of got the impression that the filmmakers lost confidence in what they were making. There's a conversation, a little two-person scene about halfway through, maybe it's at the 2/3 mark. And in this conversation, they start cutting to scenes that we've already seen in the movie thus far. It was cut as if it was a trailer, as if they're trying to sell us the movie while we're watching the movie. And not only did that take us out of watching the movie, I was reminded, oh, you're watching a movie that someone wants you to think is good. It suggested that the filmmakers didn't trust in the material, maybe didn't trust the audience to have kept up so far. Trust me, it wasn't so complicated that we couldn't keep up. So a few things like that, a few things where they almost stop everything, or they point out something like, hey, this is important, this is something that happened, or this is what's defining the career of this performer who got their start on Saturday Night Live, or hey, check out this symbolism. It was very clumsy in a way that I'm not used to from director Jason Reitman. He's usually more deft than this. He can be heavy-handed. He does like symbolism, but it's usually woven into the film and works with the material better than these sudden, jarring, out-of-context moments that we seemed to get in this movie. If you're a huge fan of Saturday Night Live, you might have strong feelings one way or another about this. I was disappointed, and I'm hoping for something more. Hi, it's Editing Matthew stepping in with a note that I want to add here. If you do like this movie, or you're just a fan of the 70s showbiz revolution and you like comedic docudramas, I urge you to check out A Stupid and Futile Gesture. It's an excellent movie available on Netflix, and it's based on the equally good book by Josh Karp. This is a biography of Doug Kenney, one of the founders of the National Lampoon. And more than that, it's a biography of National Lampoon itself, and how Doug Kenney and Henry Beard, after their time at Harvard University and the Harvard Lampoon, led a group of smart, funny misfits to create a magazine, a radio show, and what eventually became a film production house with titles like Animal House and the Vacation franchise. It's set in New York in the 1970s, just as Saturday Night is, and there are a lot of characters in common. Many of the original Saturday Night cast and writers worked on Harvard Lampoon projects before Lorne Michaels recruited them to television. And I think many of the portrayals of those figures are done much better in A Stupid and Futile Gesture. I will warn you that it is not an uplifting movie. Doug Kenney does not come to a happy end. But it is fascinating and compelling in a way that Reitman's Saturday Night does not match. I also want to tell you about the rest of my trip to the Alamo, but before that, if you've been enjoying this, please click that like button, and if you want to see Drafthouse Diaries as they come out, click that subscribe button. As for the rest of my trip to the Alamo, the pre-show was not created specifically for this movie, and I can understand why. On the one hand, there is so much material. You've got decades, you've got generations at this point of Saturday Night Live material, including amazing things from the first season, including documentary material about Saturday Night Live that you could have woven into a pre-show like this. The problem with that is it probably would have gotten tough to get clearance for that. And that's stuff that's high enough profile that the Alamo would have had to tread lightly about just lifting it and putting it into a pre-show. I know that as the Alamo gets more popular, more people know about the Alamo and its pre-shows, the copyright issues around what it puts into its pre-shows become a bigger concern. And I think that would have been a very big concern if you had used really targeted Saturday Night Live material in this pre-show. You could also have focused on the career of Jason Reitman, which is fairly extensive and worth some exploration at this point. But maybe that wasn't considered interesting enough, or maybe they just didn't expect enough mileage out of this movie to make it worth cutting a custom-made pre-show. The pre-show that we got, it was fine. It was a generic pre-show, not one that I have seen before. Again, I almost feel as if they're rolling out another batch of pre-shows that they have cut for general use. This one had some cartoons. It had a rather Yellow Submarine-ish cartoon about an artist in a field encountering a hard-to-understand but friendly alien. And it had a public service film about protecting your eyesight. And it was from Russia or I couldn't quite make this out, but all the credits were in Cyrillic. We also had a music video for the song Dr. Mabuse from Propaganda. And that was kind of exciting because I had never seen this video, but that album, A Secret Wish by Propaganda, I wore that out practically in college. That was my favorite album. I played it constantly for about 2 or 3 months straight. The music video itself, kind of what I would have expected, but it was still fun to see. Oh, there was also what seemed like a clip from a Japanese telethon, but it was a group of people setting the world record for how many balloons they could pop with their butt in 1 minute. I guess there's a record for everything. So, yeah, it was a varied pre-show, and it was fun. I got a snack while I was here. I got their chips and queso. That's good. The queso's not too spicy, but it's got some flavor. And I got a cider. They have a rotating tap for cider on their draft menu. It was a pear cider. I believe it was a pear cider last time I tried this. This time of year, I would have wanted an apple cider, if possible. These are hard ciders, of course. But the pear cider was good. It was crisp. It wasn't too sweet, but it had a good bit of sweetness, and it went well with the chips and queso. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to continue making one of these every time that I visit an Alamo Drafthouse, so I'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.